Honey Wash Day. This is Toksa Hour. I am Maggie Ross, and I am live from Porcupine, South Dakota. We're along the Porcupine Creek where the porcupines roam. Okay. Ah, it, I gotta mute that. I didn't realize I didn't mute that. Anyways, it has been a pretty busy week. I apologize. Last Sunday, I was on travel, so we had to leave home at 6 in the morning. So I was traveling down the road whenever I should have been doing Doksha hour. So I apologize. But here we are today. Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. I hope you guys have a very nice, enjoyable day. Here it is sunny. Jimmy, he went to go fishing, enjoying his Father's Day that way this morning. I think I'm going to probably be making some Indian tacos. I think that's what I'll do to celebrate today. And if my brothers come around, I'll sure be happy to see them. My dad is not around, he's in Flandreau, so I will what send send a picture. This is for you, Daddy. Shoot, but it's been a pretty busy. I went to Oklahoma. That's where I went. I was in Oklahoma. I went down to the Muskogee Nation. I went to a American Indian College Fund and slash AHEC, American Indian Higher Education Consortium. I went to their training on cultivating native student success. So it was they called it a convening. Anyways, yeah, so that's what they called it, a convening. So that's where I went. I was down there. I did learn some things. I was really excited about that. You know, oftentimes like we just you get around other people and you hear what they're doing and seeing what they're doing, and it gives you ideas, or it even gives you support to do the things that you think you should be doing. That like, hey, they're doing pretty good over there with that. So yeah, that was pretty exciting going down there. And I drove. So I'll tell you, Nebraska, I've been through Nebraska many times, but Nebraska is flat like South Dakota. And I went through Kansas before, but it was at night. So Kansas is flat like South Dakota. And what I saw of Oklahoma as well. I did drive over the Arkansas River, so stayed in Tulsa, so that was pretty interesting. So went over the Platte River and the Arkansas River, and there was a river called the Loop or something like that. The Loop. Anyways, I can't remember what that. Anyway, it was in Nebraska, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I thought um it was really beautiful, I guess I should say, because everything was green. Everything was green, and that was nice. The trees were beautiful. The rivers, some weren't so full, and some looked like they were really full, like the Arkansas River, like there were trees. There were trees in the river, so like the treetops are, and I'm like, does the river not go that far? So that was interesting. Mm. Good morning, Sean. So I'm here with my cup of coffee, my kafia, and my tacoja is still sleeping. So we're kind of blessed. Oh no, 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 spoke too soon. She's up. She's up. So what's in the news? Quite a bit. So in Minnesota yesterday, there were two people that were targeted, two legislature people in Minnesota that were targeted. And I thought it was pretty interesting. This is just a CNN, and I'm reading it off my phone. So this is from CNN, and it says what we know about Minnesota shooting suspect Vance Bolter. Bolter. Anyways, so it says Vance Bolter was also an outspoken evangelical Christian who traveled to Africa to tell his faith story, and in at least one sermon pointedly questioned American morals on sexual orientation, according to videos and social media posts reviewed by CNN. It says Bolter was a conservative who was strongly against abortion rights. A longtime friend told CNN on Sunday, but Bolter never mentioned any particular anger with the lawmakers who were shot, said David Carlson. The state officials said authorities early on Saturday encountered what appeared to be a police vehicle with emergency flashing lights in the driveway of Representative Melissa Hortman's home and what appeared to be an officer at the door coming out of the house. That individual immediately fired a weapon at them and was able to escape. Hortman, the top Democrat in the Minnesota House, and her husband were both killed. At a nearby home, Minnesota State Senate John Huffman and his wife were also shot but are in stable condition after surgery. Police said they are still investigating a motive for the attacks. The names on the list, which CNN obtained, are largely Democrat figures with ties to Planned Parenthood or the abortion rights movement. The list included prominent lawmakers like Representative Ilhan Omar and Senator Tina Smith, as well as Planned Parenthood leaders. Police said Bolter also had flyers for anti-Trump protests in his car, raising fears that he may also have intended to target those rallies. Bolter largely shied away from political posts in his publicly available social media feeds and did not discuss abortion rights in any religious speeches reviewed by CNN. In one talk he gave in the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2023, he appeared sharply critical of LGBTQ rights. One of the things that I found really interesting in this is like the media itself is always like slipping in their divisive words, and so they're like they say in here that Governor Tim Walz, that he speaks about this, but this is what they say. Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, said the attack appears to be a politically motivated assassination. And so when you think about that, where he's saying a Democrat, like he probably didn't need to say that. All he needed to say was, this article needed to say was Governor Tim Walz. And so it's like our own news media politically motivates everything. And then I was watching and reading some stuff on CNN. CNN is over in Israel, and they are doing news stories about the attack or the retaliatory attack from Iran. And so, they have demolished buildings, and they're getting, talking about saving children from the rubble or digging for people, and just showing like all the devastation. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? Like just not very far from that place is a place called Gaza that this country, this state of Israel has gone over there and just annihilated that place. And not only did they annihilate that, but they're starving them. They are just these horrible doing horrible things to a people that cannot defend themselves. They don't have a military, they don't have nothing. But then they go and they're trying to, it is the public opinion of many people that Israel is trying to provoke the United States to get involved and help them. So they're screaming around about, they're laying claim. I should watch my language too, but they are laying claim that Iran has nuclear weapons or is it capable of building nuclear weapons. And so they do a preemptive strike, and then Iran retaliates because supposedly they have a right to defend themselves. So they retaliate, and Israel is now experiencing the effects of that retaliation. And then they say, Israel, it's a red line. They have crossed the red line because they have targeted civilians. And I really work hard to try not to be this cynical, but geez, these guys test me. They push me to the core, hey. But here they are trying to talk about something they're doing themselves to a people, to children, to women, to men, to civilians that are just trying to live. They want to live their best life too, but because they're born in Gaza, because they are Palestinian, and it doesn't even matter because there are Christian Palestinians in Gaza that are being genocided as well. So it doesn't even matter your religious belief. It's just that you are Palestinian, that you were born a Palestinian, that they are determined to annihilate them. And so it's not just Gaza. Now they're over there at the West Bank doing the same thing, taking their land. And for me, it's like, and probably many of the viewers here, it feels like deja vu, right? Like our ancestors went through this. Our ancestors, we experienced this. The displacement. Muskogee are being down to not the Muskogee Nation. Their Creek, they are displaced people in Oklahoma. So even we are displaced. Even I mean we're placed within our land, but we're displaced. So it just there's just too many parallels for me that I look at this and I think make it make sense because to me the sense that I see, the sense that I'm making is deja vu. And I feel bad because the Palestinians are in the millions, right? They're in the millions. And they weren't in the millions 70 years ago, but you put them in small places and love exists everywhere. And that's what happens. And so they are like 4 million strong. So if there was ever a free Israel or free Palestine, free occupied Palestine, free anything, if they were able to do that, um, the Israeli people would become the minority in that area. And that's like us here, when what they did to the African American, the Africans, stealing them, human trafficking them over here, and then slave labor them, turn them into slaves and treat them like slaves, and um like they're not humans. And then when we had emancipation, according to Lincoln, he emancipated the African American, or the Black people, and he emancipated them. So one of the things that we know is that together, collectively, as minority people, people of color, we outnumber them. And so they have to always work to displace us. They always have to work to keep us at a lower place, a lesser place, and they use all the different governments. And so, like over there in Iran, people, it's people are conflicted. Like, do you support Iran for defending itself, because Iran itself has its own um human issues, their how they treat other people within their country. There's that. Same thing with Russia. Do you support Russia, even though Russia is known to torment their own people and what they're doing to the Ukrainian people? And do you support the Ukrainian people because their government is a piece of work too? It's like all of these leaders are just crap. And that even just trickles down into our tribal governments. It's all crap. It's people through money and power manipulating all of us. And so yesterday was No King's Day. I didn't get to participate in any of the No Kings demonstrations in South Dakota. I wanted to, but there's things that have been going on in my family that I need, that I have to always pay attention to first. And so yesterday was my nephew's memorial. And it's really like important, that we still hold strong to our own cultural values. I was thinking about this. What we do, like as Lakota people, um, how we have shared values, shared practices, and things like that, and like how we all participate in, have understanding of the importance of wiping your tears or bringing an end, and then even like how you're supposed to walk when you're in grief. And so we were able to um, get that done yesterday, and it was really really nice. My nephew, he was a good boy. He, even though he was 30 or 35, he was a good boy. I um I just was very fortunate to be a part of his whole entire life. And then his children, he left 5 children, and to be able to be a part of that, and the hardship that is, it's like as Lakota people, we're so strong in our families. It's even though you're not the biological parents, it was my brother and my sister-in-law's son, but I was a part of raising him too. And so that connection, like that's what makes us Lakota, is like we really have this connection to each other, and where we in our cultural values, and being able to let him go and honor him, and that, it was very good yesterday. And it was good to go and see childhood friends and extended relatives and stuff too, that I haven't seen in a while. And like I said, it's just been you know a hard time, when I can still think about when my niece passed away, and and all of that still runs in my head, still runs in my head. And so, still waiting for her stuff to, um, for her memorial. And so it's always like that, and it's really important that we try to do our best to do that for ourselves, that healing and letting them go so that they can go and do whatever they need to do on that other side of the Milky Way. That they're over there doing whatever, praying for us as Lakota people, and praying for us that we're going to survive and thrive and all of that. So yeah, it's really been a time for me. So we have her memorial coming, and and then and then I'll be okay. It's like getting ready to walk and back into the world and be able to be who I am. And so I'm kind of waiting for that, and knowing too, like they're entwined in me forever. They're with me forever. I can still hear them laugh. I could um my brother sent me a picture, and it's so crazy because my nephew DJ, he's playing, like he's pretty big in baseball. And I have a lot of respect for my brother Chuck because he just put a lot of, attention into DJ's baseball career. And so ever since he was a little boy, he took him over to play, everything baseball, follow him all over. And so now he's going to college, and he's going to play baseball in college in Minnesota. And so I'm so excited about that. And I'm like him, are we going to be twins? I tell him, are we going to be twins, or where are we going after? Where are you going to play professional baseball at? And so that's kind of exciting stuff. And like if we can all take our time and focus in our children and put that energy so that they can be successful, that would be really great to do. I think about my own mistakes as a mother. I think of my own mistakes as a mother, and like I try to fix that as a grandmother. And this little stinker beside me, she, I'm raising her, so I get a third try again. Well, fourth or fifth, because I have my other two granddaughters, but they're right now with their dad, spending Father's Day with him. And so yeah, that's kind of how it goes around here. Oh. Yeah, she's really anyway, so yeah, all of that stuff going on. I've sent out a couple invitations for interviews, so I'm waiting on some feedback or confirmations on that. So I'll get back on the interview trail. Um, I'm excuse me. I'm I'm really excited. This summer has really uh kind of brought me some good renewal energy. I have my chickens, my chickens are just living their good life in their little chicken house and their chicken run. And my garden, my corn is coming up now, so I'm excited about that. And um, I planted my cucumbers and my squash and my zucchini, and I even planted some those miniature pumpkins. I planted those because I planted so late, like I always try to avoid planting in June, but here I am. And my corn and stuff, I planted that on time. Even my potato box, planted that on time. Well, one day late because my grandpa always said that you're supposed to plant your potatoes, you put your potatoes in the ground on Good Friday. And so I was 2 days maybe. I can't remember if I did it on that Saturday or Sunday anyway. So I was a little bit late on the potatoes. So hopefully I get potatoes. I'm not cursed. So there's that. I've also started writing in Substack. I should give you guys my. I'll put the link thing. I started writing in Substack. I've been trying to find ways to um communicate. I man, my throat. All right. Oh, my computer's a little. I'm trying to. I'm trying to get to my profile on Substack, and it's giving me everybody else's business. But here is, if you want to follow me on Substack. I don't know if you guys use Substack, but there's a lot of people over there. Um, see what that gives you. So yeah, I'm on Substack, and I've put two things out so far. Um, the one just explaining, welcome to, I renamed because I was just Maggie Ross. And so what I'm writing, like my newsletter or whatever, is the Prairie Rose. And so I've I come from that word or that label in many different ways. So my Lakota name is Wakchashawi. And when I was a young girl, my grandmother gave me that name. My grandma was Dakota. And she said that she didn't like the Lakota word for prairie rose, for the prairie rose, for that thing. And she didn't like the Lakota word for it. And so she gave me the Dakota name Wakchashawi, which literally translates to red flower, a red flower woman. But that red flower is the prairie rose. So that's one thing about it. The other thing about the prairie rose in activism, in political activism, it's like the prairie rose, like we're going to rise up in the prairies. And so, anyways, if you guys are interested in following me in Substack, please do. And create an account in Subs. There's a lot of people, there are people getting, journalists, mainstream journalists getting fired. And then so now they're all, coming on Substack, and it's really interesting because now they get to talk about their true feelings. So you hear them, they talk about like the genocide of Gaza and that. So it's really interesting to see like how their voices were silenced, and you could hear them tell it themselves, like they weren't permitted to talk about these things because of, you know, who owns the media company. And so you see a lot of rise of independent journalists coming through Substack. And so I joined Substack about a couple years ago. My friend Nikki Pipeonhead is the one that turned me on to Substack. She kept sending me articles, and so then I had to create an account to read the whole article because I would just get a snippet of it. And so I created an account, and then so now I'm an active writer now in Substack, and trying to find other ways and avenues for us to make connections and build unity, and to get our voices out there. And so I encourage you guys. Good morning, Joel. Haven't seen you in a long time. Yeah, I almost was in Rapid yesterday. I was going to come for the No Kings, but with my nephew's memorial, so that's what I did. Yesterday evening, Um, and I don't know how to do that here yet. I'm gonna try to figure it out. But I used to be able to on Facebook. I would just log in to Facebook and I would go live, and then I would share the live stream from TikTok. And so yesterday I wanted to do that, but I got to figure this out because they were doing um you had one person from the West Bank and one person in Gaza. And then you had other people in the news or in the panel and stuff, but so we're watching live the attack on Israel. And I don't even know what to call it. If you say it's the retaliation on Israel, is that misleading language because that's what it is? But if you call it an attack on Israel, which it is too, because it's a retaliatory attack, but then does that make Israel a victim? When they're out there just creating victimhood for themselves, trying to bomb the world. Oh no, I get kind of perplexed or um I don't know what to say or think about it. But yeah. Anyways. And then I also wanted to I'm going to also look at doing multiple ways of doing live. So here you can do a live in YouTube, but it shows me that I mean I can do off of another computer or even off my phone. I could do the same thing streaming live to TikTok. But you guys in the YouTube world don't see the TikTok world, and the TikTok world doesn't see the YouTube world. But anyways, I was thinking about doing that on Sunday mornings as well. It would have to be off my phone because my Wi-Fi is so horrible here these days that I'm tempted to just go to Starlink now that well, I thought Elon and Donald Trump broke up, but it sounds like they just had an argument. They just had a spat and threw words at each other, and now they're making up because of um, Trump's gonna wreck his world. So now he's got to go be nice. On that, Steve Bannon is really working hard to get Elon Musk deported. You know how Elon is considered a naturalized citizen of the United States, so they're trying to unnaturalize him or denaturalize him. Anyways, they want to undo that. And it's crazy. Like, it's like, what are we doing, people? Like, if you can come and get away with doing stuff like that, man, a lot of people are in trouble, but at the same time, then you could go and unnaturalize. I don't know. It's just like, what is citizenship to these people? It's like nobody can be a citizen of the United States but them. And I heard this great speech from oh, what is her name? She's the president of the American Indian College Fund. And she was Carol, what is her name? Anyways, I can't remember. But so I heard her talk, and she really, I'm gonna look it up because I don't like to leave it like that. Carol, what is Cheryl Crazy Bull is her name. But anyways, she gave this really great speech this week when I was down in Oklahoma on the Muskogee Creek Nation. And she had talked, just even about like how are we connected? So we have how are we connected to this United States, and how do we get involved? Do we just sit back and watch it crumble? And if it crumbles, what does it mean that it crumbles? But what if it doesn't crumble and it just gets far worse? And so recognizing that we're indigenous people of this land, and that we should still, no matter what, be fighting for this land. That's kind of what I got from her talking. And it made a lot of sense to me. Like, what do we do? What are we doing? I'll, I'll just go back. I don't know how many times on Toksa Hour, I've talked about the staring at the wall concept. That everybody is staring at the wall. Nobody wants to get involved. If we just look the other way, no harm will come to us and stuff. And and I'll tell you, like, the longer we stare at that wall, the more of our freedoms we are giving up. And so yesterday, the whole United States, was in a No Kings celebration, marches all over, even Rapid City, Sioux Falls. If I didn't have the memorial yesterday, I would probably, if I wasn't in Rapid City, I'd be having up signs around my house, like in drive by, No Kings. I might even been standing at my approach, trying to find ways to bring awareness and whatnot. Like, we need to grow together. We have to have unity. And so in unity, it means that we acknowledge each other's differences. We know that we are different and we are coming together for a reason, and whatever that reason is. And so if our reason is to combat racism and to ensure that this government doesn't fail, then that's what we would have to do. We'd have to put our differences aside and come together to do that. If you're doing it in your community because your community needs healing, then you need to put your family differences away. And so sometimes in our family differences, we might have family feuds that go back to 1583 or something, not that long, but anyways, we could, because we're like that with the Crow Nation, right? Me brought all those guys in. Mhm. Anyways, so there's a lot of things that are going on that cause us to need to come together as groups of people. Um, I was really impressed with this conversation on Standing Rock. So how people came together for Standing Rock. And then people now are calling out that, like, how we came together for Standing Rock, we have to come together in this same way. Um, and so, like, you see in a lot of the imagery, like, people are there, they're um, pro-Palestinian people, there were pro-Israel people, there are all these different, but they all came together to say no kings. And so setting aside a difference for that um, is important, but also, like, we got to learn to have conversation with each other. This is why we are in the situation we're in, is because we are closed-minded. We only see ourselves. We don't see anybody else. And I'll tell you, my TikTok journey has um, helped me in so many ways. In so many ways. I have Palestinian friends that are in Gaza that I talk to every day. And you know how we don't like when people would say, do you still live in teepees? Or are there still Indians today? Or Native Americans, or whatever they call us. I didn't know, like, I can remember in 2017 being introduced to um people as a real live Indian. This is Maggie. She's a real live Indian. It's like, what? But I remember that. That wasn't very long ago. And so I had to have a realization that even though I'm a historian and I always favored the Middle East or the ancient civilizations and watching how all of that happened, that I didn't realize that I left all the people in that ancient world. So that's how I viewed them. I didn't view them as real live living people today. I didn't view them that way. I viewed them as ancient Palestinian people, our ancient people, people from the Bible. I viewed them in that way. And my realization is how harmful that was for them. And so now I see them like me. They are real live people. And all of them, like all of what I studied in that area, like this has really helped me. Like Congo, watching what's happening in Congo and seeing that, like, so there's so many layers of bullshit that are getting lifted from my mind or from my eyes. So like I'm seeing things differently. And that would not have happened if it wasn't for TikTok. It didn't happen for me on Facebook. What happened for me on Facebook is that we were just Lakota people in this knitted world, and all we did was fight each other. Like that's all we could do is fight each other on Facebook because that's how that community, that social network is created. Is like, yeah, that's my family and all of that, and then we're watching that, communicating that way, and then so then we just are fighting each other on Facebook. And was leaving Facebook, or after the pandemic, or even before, like I was hardly on Facebook. I only did Facebook for Toksa Hour. And so I only did it for that. And and then sometimes I'll go on and comment or whatever. But I was realizing that I was detaching from Facebook because Facebook kept me in this place, kept me um in like a microcosmic sense. It didn't allow me to see beyond. And I wanted to see beyond because what's beyond also affects us in this setting. And so,
Mama,
hmm,
can I have a pop?
no. Anyway, so we get to this place, for me and my realizations.
Mama, Mama.
Nevaeh, I don't have this muted so they can just hear you talking. So everything you say, they hear you. Anyways, so
When you're done with your music, can I turn on your iPad?
we'll see. Um, anyways, so being able to see the world outside and even how colonialism and even imperialism and white supremacy, how all of that is affecting the world. And so we are being affected as Lakota people. We're being affected by that. We are. But we cannot fight it by ourselves because we are being, we're, when we are in crisis, all we can do is think about ourselves. When we're in crisis, this is what we do. That's just kind of how that is. When you are in crisis, when you are stressed out, it's really hard. And so if this white supremacy in the world can keep all these communities suppressed, if they could keep them all suppressed in a way that we're like on Facebook, we're all isolated in these communities, these small communities, So this is where we're at. So now we're just going to fight each other. We have this in-house fighting everywhere. So you go look everywhere. And so even I was watching this morning, some news with Iran, and Iran is just the same way. They're not above any uh government BS. There's people that don't like the Ayatollah system. They don't like Khomeini. They don't like that. They want that gone because that has also a history of suppression and oppression to the Iranian people. Like all of these people, like Saddam Hussein, when he came into Iraq, he was sent there as an American entity, like the American government, like that's what happens. Destabilizing peoples around the world. And so this white supremacy is doing that. And they use people of color to do their dirty deeds. And so you have the Iranians affected by that, the Iraqis affected by that, the Kurds affected by that, the Turkish people are affected by that, the Lakota people are affected by that, the Crow Nation, the Navajo, the Hopi, they're all the Northern Cheyenne, the Muskogee Creek. We're all affected by that because the white supremacist world learns how, right? Like what did we used to call them? The hang around the fort. So they find the people that are easierly, willing to do the deeds. And a lot of times, how they break you down. Look at what they're doing to Palestine. They are breaking the strength of the Palestinian people by doing this to them in Gaza and hoping that they will turn on their own people. And it's kind of working. There is this inner fighting going on now in Gaza. And so, okay, Nevaeh, so there is that happening. And so when we think about like how do we overcome it? We have to overcome it by stepping back and looking at those bigger pictures of what is happening and who is doing it. Who's doing it? And so how do we help each other out of it? How do we get through it? I don't know if we're able to overthrow all of these governments. I don't know. We talk about peace, wanting peace. What does peace mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? Lakota culture, like our ancestors long ago, they lived in their families. The Tiwahe and the Tioshpae, all of that in that system, um, monitored and corrected behavior. So we had our values that said that we don't value that. This is the values uh we do. Like we have respect. We have we're caring, loving people. We're generous. We share. We're courageous, that we will defend ourselves. But that isn't, like it's wola kota. It isn't like stand up and go attack everybody and create enemies. Even Lakota, like that Dakota, that's that means we're allies. That's what we value as friends, friendships, relationships. So our whole language, our whole everything is about that wola kota. We're peace. We want peace. So, yes, we're going to disagree with people, but we will try to find ways to have peace. And we have stories about making peace with people, and we take them in as our relatives. That's how we ended the conflict, is we made you our relative. And so we need to get to a place like that, return to that. But not, I mean, a lot of people in their idea of what peace is or what being Lakota is or Wolakota, it's still oppressive. We need to return to our families, but people sometimes don't want to return to their families because they don't want to follow those rules. They don't want to be confined because what the United States brought here was alcohol and addiction. That's what they gave us. And I know many people will go, they always do this, they say about Sitting Bull. That he said, let's put our minds together and, make the best that we can, for our children's sake. So we look at it and say, okay, what can we learn from them so that we can make a better way? And so when we say that, what can we take from them or what can we learn from them to make a better way? What we're talking about is growth. We're talking about not just assimilation, but it's talking about being a Lakota in the 21st century. That's what that's about. And so we have to figure out where we're at with that and if we're okay with that. And allowing people to make that choice. Whether they want to live in this family or go live out there in the world. So we're changing and those value systems change. But we also have to remember that there's a great influence of Ikdomi, right? The white supremacist. I gave that to Ikdomi, called him a white supremacist. Now I'll probably have hard times. Probably be getting tricked all kinds of ways. Darn it. Take it back. Take it back. But anyway, it is what it is. And how do we move forward? We will see. So as I was telling you, I worked on, I'm trying to work on a schedule of interviews to get that up and running. And I will tell you, in July, we're June 15th. Jeez. We are just a few days away from the longest day of the year. And you know what that means? Then we go to the what they call the slide. Hey, we're gonna slide back to winter. Anyways, what was I saying? Jeez, messed myself up. Oh, July 6th. There will be no Toksa Hour on July 6th. But I'll be back on the 13th. So I wanted to say that, but yeah, man, time flies. Time flies, and I didn't even get to do anything yet. I'm just running all over the place. So I do want to again say Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to Sean and to Joe. I can see you here. I don't see Steve, but if he watches later, Happy Father's Day, Steve. I want to say Happy Father's Day to my brothers, and to my father. My dad is my biggest supporter. Like he's my biggest fan, and I just, I'm very fortunate to have good parents. My mother and my father, they stand, they support me and encourage me to be who I am, and I just forever am indebted to them. And I'm very fortunate to be the age I am and to still have my parents walking with me on this earth. And so I am thankful for that. Um, my brothers are my strengths. So I'm very fortunate to have my brothers. They have always been there. They've never like suffocated me. My brothers have always just been there with me. Like if no matter what I'm doing, there's something, like they don't go get in my business and they don't any like that. But because of who I am and how I am, no matter what, they come and help me. So like there's times when I get myself, in trouble. in trouble in the sense of my activism. Trouble, like I went through a couple times I went through where, because of what I was saying, I lost my income. And so, my brothers helped me by helping me with some food or, things like that. And I'm always grateful um, to my brothers. They are amazing fathers. So I can never say enough about my brothers. My brother-in-law, he's a good father as well. Has him and my sister have raised their children and have done great things. So I want to wish him happy Father's Day. I want to also my partner, Jimmy, wish him a happy Father's Day. Sometimes it's hard when you're an absent father. Like, you don't get to be with your children every day. And so you watch them grow from a distance. And so I know there's many fathers that are like that too, that yearn to be with their children and wish their children could be with them every step of the way as well. And so I want to wish all the dads and fathers out there. I used to do this thing about, single parent mothers stepping into the role of fathers, but I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to acknowledge that because we get acknowledged on that Mother's Day for doing all the great deeds that we do. On Father's Day, I want to acknowledge all the fathers and even the ones that are absent because without even absent fathers, there's no children. So anyways, things happen for a reason and we should be thinking and feel blessed about the decisions and paths that we are on. So with that, you guys have a great Sunday. I hope you're going to go out and fish or cook out or just chill out with your kids. It's hot outside, so I don't know, maybe you get to go to the lake or whatever. And in closing, I would also just for the Palestinian to think of the Palestinian fathers and pray for them as well, because this is such a horrible thing happening to them, and so that we would want this to stop, so that they could thrive and they can live as Palestinian people and they can live on their land, just like how we want to live on ours. So, with that, you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a good week, and I will see you next Sunday, hopefully with a guest. We'll see. Toksa.
Yeah.